return of Emily Thornberry. She joined me a little earlier this evening. Emily Thornberry, you claim to agree with Jeremy Corbyn on almost everything. So why should Labour pick a new leader whose views are pretty much the same as the leader who led your party to its worst defeat since 1935?
I don't think that now is for Labour to have some sort of existential crisis about who we are or what we stand for. I think, though, that we have to change, and there are a number of practical differences that we need to make. So I think that we need to make sure that we are less sectarian than we have been, and we need to make sure that everyone feels included and that we unite. I think it's important for the Leader of the Opposition to have a shadow cabinet that reflects all the talents in the parliamentary party, all the regions, and equal numbers of men and women, and to look like the population that we seek to represent. There's that. I think there's also a difference in terms of the way that Southside, which is our headquarters, operates. I think in the end we were established by working people to be a party of power, and we have to be pragmatic and we have to go for election victories, which means that Southside should be an election fighting machine first and foremost, and so should the regions. And I think that's a change.
All right, let me ask you this, because you all talk about the need for an open and honest debate about what went wrong in December. Yes. You all say that. Can you really have an open and honest debate without saying a critical word about Jeremy Corbyn?
I think that what went wrong, and I can tell you this, is with the general election, is that we had an election on one issue. And my strong view was always that we should have a referendum. That if we wanted to get Brexit done, the way to do it was to have a referendum on Boris Johnson's deal or whatever the viable deal was, and to put that to the people and say, do you want this or don't you want this? Let's get this sorted out, and then go on to a general election. What we tried to do was to have a general election where we tried to change the subject. They had 3 words, get Brexit done. We had 3.5 paragraphs as our policy, and we kept trying to change the subject, and we weren't able to.
Right.
We should not have agreed to a general election in those circumstances.
But that's
what we did.
That's water under the bridge.
No, but you're the one who's asked me what went wrong in December. I'm just saying we allowed Boris Johnson to wrap himself up in the lie that he could get Brexit done, and we gave him 5 years in power. We gave him the best Christmas present he possibly could.
All right.
And that's why the election went wrong.
Coming.
I did see it coming, and actually
the party didn't see it coming.
I saw it coming, and I warned in Shadow Cabinet, and I wrote to Jeremy, and I'm afraid that letter now reads like a prophecy.
You said the manifesto was too broad and too ambitious. That was your criticism, but you gave Mr Corbyn 10 out of 10 for principle. So I just want to get this clear for our viewers and people who'll be voting in this contest. You think Corbynism was the right destination, but he just wanted to get there too quickly?
I think that when people looked at our manifesto, they saw a 15-year programme. I can't see anything in particular in the manifesto that I would say, oh, that's wrong or this is wrong. What I would say is that we don't want to go back to the 1990s, apart from obviously winning elections, which would be good. But we need to go back to the idea of having a pledge card, having the 5 priorities, so that when we talk to people on the doorstep, they know what it is that we want to do first. I went to Australia. I thought that I was going to meet the Australian Labour government. I met a party that was in the same sort of shock and dismay as we are, and they had done the same thing. They had a far too ambitious manifesto with far too much in it and confused the public.
Indeed. So Corbynism is still the right direction, but it could take longer, is what you're saying. On that pledge card...
What I'm saying is that we should have priorities.
Right, and that's what I'm going to ask you. For you, what would be the #1 priority on that pledge card? What would be the totemic Thornberry policy?
The first thing I would say is that, unfortunately, it's 5 years between now and the next general election, probably. And so it's difficult at this stage to be writing the manifesto for the next general election.
I didn't ask you that. I asked you what would be the most important matter on a pledge card.
In a general election in 5 years' time.
What is it that gets you to want to be leader? What is the real policy that you would want to push?
I think there are a number of things that would be my priorities. I think the first one is social care. I think that when you talk to the public, it's right that the National Health Service is like our national religion. But not many people appreciate just how bad social care is. There are people who have to go to bed at 5 o'clock in the evening because there's no one there to look after them.
So what would your policy be on social care?
There are people who are disabled who are not even washed. What I would do is I think that we have to integrate health and social care in the same way that Barbara Castle wanted to many decades ago. We have been failing. And you've either come across social care and you appreciate how bad it is, or you will at some time in the future.
It's Labour policy to integrate the NHS and social care.
And it's our policy to ensure that there is what's called free social care.
So there's no difference?
So I think that what we have to do, but we have to stick to that.
So that's not distinctive to your leadership?
No, Andrew, you're asking me, first of all, you're asking me what's going to be in a manifesto in 5 years' time, and then you're asking me what's on a pledge card.
I was asking you what would be distinctive, what would be the distinctive policy of a Thornberry leadership?
Yes. And I'm saying that what's distinctive is having priorities. And my priority would be social care has to be a priority. We have to have a real... When we talk about a green industrial revolution, it's right that we are talking about the way in which we contribute to stopping carbon emissions.
And you all say that too.
And we have to have a fully fledged programme in relation to that.
Indeed.
Because when we spoke to people on the doorstep, they didn't believe that we could do it. And that is really important. In fact, that takes me on to a kind of a general point, which is I don't think that we can say to the public there is another way. It doesn't have to be like this. If they don't believe us, if they don't believe that we can even deal with anti-Semitism in our midst, they will not believe that we can lead a green industrial revolution.
So, right, but you're all signed on to the green industrial revolution. You've said you have flaws. What are they?
I get impatient with people. You're
not alone in that.
I don't like disloyalty. That's
not a flaw.
Well, I'm very loyal myself, and I expect people to be loyal to me.
Not a flaw to dislike disloyalty.
Well, I think, I get impatient with people who leak things, who brief. I don't do any of that, but I get very impatient with that, and perhaps I don't sometimes understand at all why it is that people feel pushed into behaving in that way.
You're very positive about your own judgment of your leadership abilities. You say you will make a good leader.
Yes.
But you nominated Mr. Corbyn for the leadership, though you didn't vote for him. That went well. Before that, you encouraged Ed Miliband to stand as Labour leader. That went well too. I mean, when it comes to judging leadership talent, your track record's not exactly infallible, is it?
I have not stood for leader before because I think that you need to have proper experience, and I have been a member of Parliament now for 15 years, and I have been a frontbencher I have done 7 frontbench jobs. I nominated Jeremy for the leadership because I thought that it was important to widen the debate, and I continue to believe that when you have a leadership competition, it's up to the members to decide. Once the membership had decided on Jeremy, when there was a rebellion going on in Parliament, I stuck with Jeremy Corbyn because he was the member's choice. I think that was the right thing to do, and when it came to Ed Miliband, I thought that he was the best candidate that we had for leader.
You were the first Shadow Cabinet Ministers to speak from a People's Vote platform. Do you accept that backing a second referendum, it's the policy you advocated, it hurt Labour in the campaign, in the election?
I think that what we should have had was a second referendum and not a general election.
But given that you had an election, did the People's Vote platform hurt Labour?
Yeah, but you see, it's all you're all wrapping it up into one. What my point is this, is that we should have had a second referendum and then a general election. You're asking me, given that we had a general election and not a second referendum, did the second referendum hurt? No. The point is we should have got Brexit done through a second referendum where we confirmed that this is what the public wanted and then go on to a general election. Well, you asked me what I think. That's what I think.
Right, but you lost the argument. And in the eyes of many former Labour voters, you are the epitome of Remain. You wanted Labour to go even further, adopt an unequivocal anti-Brexit policy. So why would you be the person to show that Labour has got the Brexit message?
Well, the bottom and top of it is this, isn't it? Is that unfortunately, legally and constitutionally, we're going to be leaving the European Union at the end of January. And thereafter, the question is going to be, what kind of deal are we going to get with the European Union? How are we going to continue to trade with our biggest trading partner, given we do 50% of our trade with them? Boris Johnson has said that he's going to get a deal by the end of the year. No right-thinking person thinks that that is possible, let alone the deals that we have with 60 other countries through the other 40 agreements that we have through being in the European Union. If we sail off at the end of the year with no deal with the European Union and no deal with the other 60 countries, we are going to be in a lot of trouble. The fight moves on to making sure that the present government looks after our country and jobs and the economy.
I understand, and that is the job of the Leader of the Opposition, to hold the government to account. But it's also the job, if you want to get this job, to convince former Labour voters, Labour members, that you would be the person to do that you understand why people voted for Brexit. More importantly, you understand why so many Labour voters, for the first time ever, voted Conservative. And when Caroline Flint says that you told one of your colleagues from a Leave voting constituency, you said, "I'm glad my constituencies aren't as stupid as yours," people wonder that you're the right person.
Well, first of all, I didn't say that. It's not right for someone to go onto national television and just tell a lie like that.
Is Caroline Flint lying?
She's lying. And I'm afraid it's in the hands of lawyers now. I mean, I don't mind people having a go at me.
You're taking it to court?
Yeah, I'm taking it to court.
All right.
So the point is that people can criticise me. I will take it on the chin. I am thick-skinned. People can have a go at me, but they don't make up lies. And when they do, I sue. And I'm afraid,
all right. So,
until she takes it back, we're going to have to
And she says she's not going to apologise, but
well,
we'll see. We'll see.
I don't just want her to apologise. She has to take it back.
I understand. So we'll let my learned friends follow through.
Well, what can I do?
No, I'm not arguing with you on that. So you wouldn't say there was something wrong with people who voted Brexit?
No, of course not.
Well, let me just show you this clip from Parliament in an event last summer. This is your colleague Dawn Butler. She's the one speaking, but you're clearly in the picture too.
The Love Socialism Hate Brexit WhatsApp group. And the thing is, I think if anyone doesn't hate Brexit, even if you voted for it, there's something wrong with you. Because Brexit has not been good for the country.
What was so funny about saying there's something wrong with you if you voted Brexit?
I was quite shocked that she was saying it, and I'm afraid that's why I laughed.
Well, you laughed, even to make sure you got in the picture. You leaned into her to laugh.
Well, I was sitting down. I mean, I was sitting down in a chair, so I was moving around and sitting down, and she was saying the most extraordinary thing. I was not sneering.
You were joining the sneer of Brexit voters.
I was not sneering.
That's why people don't think you're the right one to get these Labour voters back.
Well, I'm afraid that what is the right way to get Labour voters back is to have a strong leadership, to have a competent and clear Labour Party, a leadership that will make sure that we speak from the heart, but we speak in a way that people can hear and that they believe in us. And the way in which we do that is by listening to people, and certainly we do not sneer. I really object to this. When they say that I sneer at people, they forget who I am and where I come from. It is the Prime Minister who has said that blue-collar workers like my brother, who's a builder, are largely unemployed, have low self-esteem and are drunk. He's talking about my brother. No one says that Boris Johnson sneers at people. Somebody like me, who comes in the end from a council estate and from a single-parent background, I do not sneer at people.
Except that you giggle at the idea that there's something wrong with Brexit voters.
Well, I was not laughing at her. I was not laughing at her. I was laughing at Dawn saying the most extraordinary things on the platform, and I have never sneered, and it is not right to say so, and I do not accept that.
But you see, you've had your run-in with White Van Daan. Let's not go over that again. The issue is, why are you the person to reach the voters that Labour lost in people like Bolsover and Blythe Valley when you have the views that you do?
All right, let me put it this way. There was a focus group yesterday that was on Channel 4 News, and on that they were asking people in the East Midlands who had voted Labour all their lives and voted Conservative last time, and when they were asked to put their hand up about whether or not the various leadership candidates were they more likely to vote Labour if I was leader, all of them put up their hand. People see differently to outside the Westminster bubble. When I talk to people from outside the Westminster bubble, they know that I listen and they know that I learn from people.
Except among the candidates, you have the second worst favourability ratings in the opinion polls.
Well, which opinion polls are we talking about? The only opinion poll that matters is when we get 500,000 members voting.
Well, let's show you there. There's a YouGov poll. Your favourability rating is -15.
And
that's not cutting through.
And that's with who? What's the pool?
That's with the country.
What's the
country, YouGov.
Well,
okay.
I think that it's
let's move on.
I haven't seen it before, so I don't know what it is. I mean, I don't know what it is.
And there's one poll that matters to you.
Yeah.
And policy matters too. So let's move to our quick fire round. You get bonus points if it's a yes/no answer. Regardless of our future relationship with the EU, would you like free movement of people to continue?
I think that we need to have. It depends what our deal with the European Union is, and so we have to kind of keep an open mind with that because we need to be close to the single market.
Right,
so
and the EU has said if you want to be as close as possible, then you need to agree to free movement. Would you agree to that?
I think that it has to be subject to negotiation, and we have to keep
I know,
an
but
open
what
mind
would your
on it.
position be? Or do you
My
want it,
position
or
would
don't
be,
you?
my position would be that we do what is best for jobs and the economy in this country.
Why can't
That's
you
what
answer
my
that
position.
question?
I have answered that question, and I've answered it honestly. And I can tell you
Well,
this.
Lisa Nandy told me she was in favour of free movement, but you're not saying that.
I'm saying that we need to come to a deal with the European Union that looks after jobs and the economy first and foremost.
Okay.
I would, as a general principle of immigration, make sure that our immigration policy looks after our economy, particularly public services, and also make sure that families are able to reunify when they come to this country. I have too many constituents who have difficulty bringing their family into this country.
It was a simple yes, no.
Well, I'm giving you a proper
Should we
answer.
scrap HS2?
No.
Should we scrap Trident?
No, we're too far down the line on that. I have been to Barrow, I've seen the submarines being built, and it would cost more to scrap it now than to continue with it.
And if it was you in charge as Prime Minister, would you let our enemies, if we faced an existential threat, would you make it clear you were prepared to use it?
I would do anything to protect our country. I am not prepared to go into the details, just like any other leader apart from the last three. We will not give our plans or our strategy out to our enemies. That is the end of it.
But if they don't think we're going to use it, it's not a deterrent.
We don't say whether we would use it or not, and I say the same,
Okay.
frankly, as
All right,
David Cameron, Margaret Thatcher,
that's an answer.
all the other people who have been leaders
Okay.
of this country. You do not say in what circumstances you would or wouldn't use nuclear weapons.
Mandatory reselection of Labour MPs, which outside the jargon is that before every election, Labour MPs need to be re-adopted by their constituency or face a contest?
So what we have is we have a situation at the moment whereby our candidates have to be re-nominated by the party. And I agree with that, and I don't think that we need to change it. It is very important that MPs remain close to their local parties and have their confidence.
Right, so the answer to that is no, which is clear. Rail, mail, water, energy, broadband, you were all going to nationalise these in the December manifesto. Would you continue with that?
I think that we should renationalise rail. I think that we should bring that in. I think we should renationalise the Royal Mail. I think that the approach that I've taken with other businesses, and I have met people from the other utilities, is that I've made it clear what it is that we expect from them.
But not necessarily to nationalise.
What we need to do is make sure that they do as we expect. We do not expect these large profits. We do not expect water prices to go up in the way that they do. We expect the national grid to be able to support a green industrial revolution.
If you're going to nationalise, you said no.
What I have said is that when I have spoken to businesses, I have said...
This is the yes-no interlude.
When I have spoken to businesses, I have said to them, this is what our policy is. If you don't like it, you tell me how you deliver what we want without you being
re-nationalised. I understand, but it's not necessarily nationalisation, and that's clear, and that's a change too. Is there any role for selection in the state school system?
I don't think that we should have... I believe in a comprehensive system.
But you sent your son to a partially selective school.
I sent my children to a school that had been in Islington and is oversubscribed. And yes, there was a selection for the first child.
30 miles away.
Well, it had been
it
had been in my constituency for 200 years.
Yeah, but
and
it
when
was
it
founded
moved out,
in 1613.
and when it moved out,
it was selective.
And when it moved out, it said that it would still have children from Islington, and whether you are whether you are a child in care, and they select children from being in care.
They select on ability and aptitude too. You sent your children to a selective school.
Well, a partially selective school, but there's only a proportion of the kids that are there. But it's actually seen as it's identified by Ofsted as a comprehensive.
Partially selective schools
It's a comprehensive school, and that is what Ofsted...
partially selective school, Emily Thornberry. A lot of people just see this as the acme of hypocrisy. You're against selection, but not when it comes to your own kids.
I'll tell you this. As a politician, what I want to do is I want to make sure that we have good schools up and down the country. But as a mother, I will never apologise for doing the best for my kids.
All right, that's what Diane Abbott told me as well.
Well, that's the truth.
Which is fine.
And I tell you what, any mother watching this will agree with me.
Okay.
And as the victim, the victim of selective education, being somebody who failed her 11 plus and went to a secondary modern, I feel very strongly about this, and it is absolutely a calling for us to make sure that we have decent, comprehensive schools up and down the country.
All right. You said yesterday that 10 years of the Tories had left the affluent paying less tax. What's the evidence for that?
I was talking about the different tax rates. and I was talking about the fact that we have that instead of the tax rate for the upper rate being 50 pence in a pound, it was 45.
Right, but the tax rate doesn't tell you how much revenue you pay. What is the evidence that the well-off are paying less tax now than they were 10 years ago?
Well, I think that since the crash, in fact, the most well-off are now paying a proportion more. I think that the top 6% are paying 50% of the total income tax rate.
Top 5% paid 45% of total income tax. Top 5 paid 45% of all income tax revenues in the last year of the last Labour government. What's the share now?
50.
So it's actually they're paying more.
Yes, but that's
because you said they've gone down.
Yes, but the rate that they're paying
has gone down.
Yeah, but it's the revenues
that matter,
yes,
not
but
the rate.
No, but it's also about, what income people have. And since the crash, people's incomes...
You said they are paying less tax. You've just admitted the figures don't show that.
What I have said is that those with the broadest shoulders should pay more.
I'm not arguing with that.
Well,
I'm arguing with you saying
because
they pay
that is the
less
point.
Tax.
The point
the figures show they haven't. I need to move on to anti-Semitism because you want the party to crack down. Listen to experts, you said, like the Board of Deputies of British Jews.
Yes.
Do you agree with them, therefore, if you're listening to them, their view that Shami Chakrabarty's report was a whitewash that sold out the Jewish community?
No, I don't.
You don't. So you listen to them, but not that closely on this.
I can disagree with people and listen to them.
They
were wrong about Shami's report. What they wanted from Shami's report was for her to make decisions about who was anti-Semitic and who wasn't. Shami took the view that what we should do is not have individual politicians making decisions, but that we should have a semi-independent body that took decisions and did it in a quasi-judicial way. And that was the result of her report. And I think that she has been badly maligned. And if her recommendations had been implemented at the time, I think that we would not be in the mess that we're in now.
Finally, you need the votes of the many to continue in this long leadership contest. But so far, your nominations are few. Are you going to get enough?
Yes, I am.
When will we know?
Well, I think we've got until February the 14th. So I'm up and down the country talking to members at the moment, and it'll be up to the members in the end. I think that in the end, it'll be the members' choice, and the members' candidate will be the one who will get elected.
It will be the members' choice. Let's hope they're watching tonight. Emily Thornberry, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.